Well, hello everybody. I'll give it a minute to let people log on. Um, I'm going to get into an obvious, but obviously not so obvious, reality in Canada of our legislative branch of government. And in fact, it's not a legislative branch of government. And what do I mean by that? Legislative branches of government are part of a three-tier, right? We have executive, which should be all of your political party's leaders elected to title a seat running the show. You have official opposition. What you shouldn't have is an overlap of that power, that function called executive, the highest level, placed into legislative. Legislative in real democracies, and that's what we're talking about here, because we hear a lot of crud, folks, a lot of crud about a lot of countries where in fact, either 2 to 10 times more fundamentally democratic than Canada is. I've heard a lot from conservatives over the years. I was on that wagon for many, many years. And I put some people in this title. I see people are starting to log on. I really want to thank Teresa McBride, Calgary, Alberta, for sending me. I'm very busy, folks, and with work, extreme hours. She sent me the National Post, which I like to call the national piece of you know what, and it upsets me. They're not conservative. I know conservatives believe that over the years. I used to too. It's not. It is a propaganda smut magazine from the UK, and that is entirely all and everything it's ever going to be. This video is so crucial, so critical for folks to understand. I'm going to blow away all those who ever participated in the Charlottetown Accords or anyone who is around for Triple E Senate. I'm going to go through all of it, and I'm going to go through again our three branches of government, which are in fact not what's claimed to be, never have been, and never will be without major constitutional dismemberment, and I mean major, and then redesign. That means an end to the crown. I know Canadians believe that they have some kind of democracy in this country. The answer is you don't. A country called the British Empire, that's now the United Kingdom, is everything that we are designed from and modeled after. Their design of House of Lords, super autocratic, non-functioning, not democracy, huge power of, in fact, the executive, the majesty of the crown, which has always been. And anyone who believes that's not true, just go look at the Commonwealth and all of our trade pacts. But this video is not going to get into all of that evil. It's going to take us into what's called the legislative branch of government. It's the Westminster, like the House of Lords. It's called the Canadian Senate. That, folks, while it is logged as a legislative branch of government, it is not. Now let's start with this. Representing people, representatives of the people, and upper house. Senators in Canada are not elected. They're absolutely and entirely appointed, have been entirely defined and in place since 1867. Never amended, never changed. That means they're all appointed, in fact, by the executive through the crown position of Governor General. Every single one of them. Purely autocratic. And they have an oath of allegiance to the executive key power, which is Prime Minister of Canada, sworn to the crown of the Governor General, who is appointed and sworn to the Prime Minister and will obey the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister can throw away the Governor General anytime he or she doesn't go along with Prime Minister. This is exactly what Adolf Hitler jumped into as he took Nazi Germany. He did a Canada. First Canada, much later, Hitler and Nazi Germany. In fact, nearly 60 years later, 56 years later. And there's many other countries. Now, folks, the Senate that's autocratically appointed, always since 1867, sworn to the Prime Minister, meaning are a function and duty of the Prime Minister, who is the chief executive, the executive. That means, in legal terms, in Canada, your Senate is fused with the executive. You might as well call it the Prime Minister's Senate, a function of the Prime Minister, whomever you've elected. So you don't have a legislative branch, because even when the House makes bills, as you all know, there's 3 readings if it's a House of Commons bill. But you know there's a Senate bill, C-House of Commons, S-Senate. And guess what? 3 readings of Senate, then 3 of House. Other way around, if it's a C bill, 3 readings of House and then 3 readings of Senate. They get debated, changes made, and then pushed through. So you see, there never was a House of Representatives, Canadians. If you don't understand this, just go at gun laws. Anything that you can pull out you don't like in laws, I can tell you firearms. Love firearms. Huge family tradition, much use as an extracurricular activity. House says it's going to be this. Liberal government goes through its 3 ratings, a few firearms put in. Okay, I don't like it, but at least it's only a handful. Then it goes through the appointed Senate, and it becomes a page I can roll out the door. Goodbye, all my firearms. Where's the House on that? Where's the democracy? There isn't. Because the Senate changed it all and then added a slew more. And there's all kinds of things. Anytime the Prime Minister you elect doesn't like democracy, they go through Senate. And I could get into our judiciary, but that's not going to be this video. I want people to understand this. Conservative, Liberal, NDP, it doesn't matter. Because whatever you've come up with, I can myth bust all of it as a joke, a farce, a fancy, a delusion. And I put Vincent Byfield's late father, who actually really liked me, Ted. And Vince will probably catch up with this video. I've been to Vince's place. I met his late father. He was very intrigued by me, Alberta independence, all of it. But I think what really intrigued him was that I was straight shooting, make it simple for everybody, explain things as there really are, not as you've been lied to by absolutely all the media. National Post, again, I call national piece of you-know-what. And the reason why is now I've gone through this fused executive branch with the Senate. I know all our highest courts are there too, and I'll do another video about that. That is called King's system. Always has been a great autocratic power of all constitutional monarchies. Sorry, all Canadians. I don't care what party you affiliate with. It is an autocratic extreme system. Socialist and fascist. Hence where you get socialist fascists from. When you go in history, you'll find every single one was a constitutional monarchy in its period of its Looney Tunes. Biggest human rights abuses. Why? Because you're given divine powers to a few human beings with nothing of any checks and balances in place except for the crown. Well, what happens when the chief executive appoints the crown and then it goes downward? You're giving them godly powers, and anyone who's under them to fit in or get lost, they accept that and they get a little of that crown magic dust too, and they all become divine dictators. So, back to Senate here. Now that you get that, all these appointed senators with their tremendous salaries, since 1867, 1/3 of all senators in Canada must be from Quebec. 1/3. 33%. 8.6 million people, folks. Canada's now 40.75 million people. 1/5, but yet they have 33% of the appointed senators. Not that it matters, okay? Let's just start with that. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter the proportion of senators. What matters is that they're all Crown sworn, appointed by Crown, and an absolute fusion to the executive branch of government. In fact, fused to the highest seat, Prime Minister. Now, Pierre Poilievre gets elected. National Post says they're not going to listen, they're not going to do anything. That's not true, because their appointments through Governor General Crown sworn. They even have all kinds of different parties. They're not liberal, they're not conservative. They've created their own divine superior parties. Yeah. They even have colors and banners like secret societies. It's the most not talked about thing in Canadian history. And sadly, when we go back to first the Charlottetown Accord, from whispers of a Triple E Senate. Triple E Senate was the idea every single province would get the exact same amount of senators. A make-believe for the United States. And I'm going to get into that in a minute, okay? I'm going to tell you about USA Senate as a check and balance, and then I'm going to tell you the farce and the bullshit. I said it. I was trying to hold back. Maybe I'll get pinched, but it's the bullshit of Canada's presentations ever. Nothing Canada's ever put forward by any party or any leader. Yes, Preston Manning. Yes, we can go through all of them. The Charlottetown Accord, we can go through Joe Clark. All bullshit by the worst accounts, and we'll get into that in a minute. Charlottetown Accords was this. They said, okay, your idea of Triple E Senate, Joe Clark, this is what we'll do. Because of all the Crown premiers who got their hands in it, because remember, executive goes down. Prime Minister, executive. Premiers, executive. Then there's the Crown executive, Governor General, and then the provincial lieutenant governors, Crown executive. Part and parcel with premiers, part and parcel Governor General with Prime Minister. That gives them superpowers. Provinces too. Provinces don't have any constitution at all. None. No highest laws regulating them. So the premiers of the time, 1991-92, in Charlottetown Accords come up, they say, Joe Clark, we want to be able to select our senators, our 6 as you propose, or we'll have them elected in our province, but it's by our legislature that we hold power of, because we want the same power as Justin Trudeau, but the executive supreme power of a fused legislative branch of government. Pure autocracy. Every single premier, besides the 4 Western premiers. Now they said, no. And you know the 710 rule in Canada for amending the Constitution to change Senate, Charlottetown failed because the 4 Western provinces said, no way, even if it was proportional, but an executive power of the East would override the West every time. So they said the Triple E Senate, they'll be elected, 6 per province, we'll let it be by popularity. That's what they wanted, equal representation. 1 for the territories. They even wanted to present Australia and New Zealand that are complete, utter failures. And I'm going to get into USA versus New Zealand, Australia, as Triple E Senate was presented to you. Because remember, It doesn't matter how they get there, just like the House of Commons folks. What is their oath? It's to His Majesty currently, King Charles III, and all heirs, just like it was Queen Elizabeth. We can go back, Victoria, we can go through all of them. Doesn't matter. They obey that. They take away your sovereignty, and they do. And they're also appointed and sworn and held to account by the Governor General as whomever you've elected Prime Minister designates to that position. See the problem here, folks? Nothing we're told by any executive powers is truthful. They are one part and parcel, absolute of the Senate. We could go into House of Commons too, and I could do that in another video, but I want you to understand the pure perversion of a fused legislative branch of government, where even in your pathetic House of Commons democracy, it's completely tore up by the Senate every time. Nothing ever comes out the way it was sold to you or promised to you in anybody's campaign election. They've been running this game since 1867. It is a mighty power of that British Empire authority that we are entirely modeled after. Don't believe me? Just read what's called the preliminary of the Canadian Constitution. Then you can go through, as we're going through all these crown powerful people, the elite first class, and you will get to Senate, and you will find what I'm telling you is 110% accurate, never amended, never changed, never will be. Because Triple E Senate will be voted out by the East. Charlottetown Accord, voted out by the West. Because the premiers want that same autocratic power as the Prime Minister, without any constitution and no checks and balances. This is exactly the results and reality of New Zealand and Australia. Even First Peoples, as we go through the Indian Act, then we go into Aboriginal, and now we're into Indigenous. Even if they gave all the First Peoples 1 or 2 senators across Canada, do you think in 100 it's going to make a big deal? The answer is 0, no. It's all an act. It's all under crown. It's another first-class set of people. And we, the low-life, degenerate, not written in the Constitution, absolutely all Canadian subjects and all First Peoples who are all under the Indian Act, aren't there. We're not real citizens, subjects and defined savages. Not my words. Absolutely the government of Canada forever and a day's words. Even now, 2024. Today, May, as I give this video. No one wants to tell you the truth. Not a lick of them. Because they're all in on it. They're greedy, seedy. And if you think China's bad, or Russia's bad, or a whole bunch of other civilized socialist countries are bad, we're worse. Arguably worse, because it's the illusion of democracy and the pure abuse of a runaway system of people who are defined or divine, superior to all of you, a higher class of human being who's somehow magically like a god and you're not. Now, I promised USA analysis here for everybody. In the USA, they do have 2 senators per state. It is a real check and balance. You know why? Because Senate is not executive and can never be. You can go to jail if you get caught as a senator messing around with the president. The president has no authority there, and vice versa. Any 2 American citizens, the little people, can come together and teach a senator a valuable lesson about jail time if they're caught into that, or they can get a grand jury type system, which it has many names. That's the best way to use it, is a citizen grand jury. And we see it all the time. I could show you many times. So the president knows not to mess with the check and balance. What is the USA check and balance of their Senate? They're all elected, for one. There's two for every state, no matter how big or how small. Their function is opposite of that mighty house. Their function is a check and balance against all the major municipalities and the little rural people or the little rural states. That's the check and balance. There's never going to be 15-minute cities in the United States unless a city can get to like a New York or Los Angeles size in relation to its state, where its arms and tentacles have almost eaten up all the rural property, because that's what it would take. And the more city, the more powerful those two Senate representatives and the people in that rural communities become. It's a check and balance against their house for making and playing up to all the city folks. You won't see the realities of Canada ever in the USA. They have a real check and balance. Absolute. And you know why Senate isn't a big issue for the American Indians? Because they're codified with their own federal layer. And they get all the powers of a state, 155 of them, codified with real constitutions. Constitutions that every state has, sort of those 155 American Indian nations in their state, and they can go to their senators too in state. And some of the smaller ones, it's in their best interest. That's why you see presidents making deals with them, and you see land buybacks for American Indians, but not in Canada. It doesn't happen. All a con job. From Charlottetown for the Easterners or to Triple E Senate for the Westerners. A joke, a lie. It would never fly, and you could never get the Constitution amended because you'd have to erase the crown. You would have to take away those executive powers. Every province in Canada has an Executive Powers Act. It's every single amendment, part of the 11 to 1982 in Canada. The last provincial amendment was Newfoundland. Yeah, when they rejoined into Confederation. Those are your amendments, and they all come with Executive Powers Act that give ultimate autocratic authority to the premiers, vested through Lieutenant Governor, appointed by Governor General at the advice and consent of the Prime Minister. You're in a pure dictatorship with a fused upper house Senate that can rewrite all your House bills, and they do. And they throw in all these cockamamie things on you, and by the time the bill gets to the end, it's either watered down to destroy it and empower the executive, or to tax and destroy you, or steal all your property and things, your rights, crush them. It happens over and over and over and over again, provincially and federally. It's even worse provincially. And don't think those monsters of premiers were any better or any different than Prime Minister. That's the truth. The sick, socialist, fascist state of Canada. Now, it's up to all of you to share. And I know there's a lot of people out there who know the Byfields and their legacy. I know there's a lot of people who know Joe Clark's legacy and history, and Preston Manning's. You share this to all of them, because I've hit it deadly accurate, 100% truthful, and as it really is. Credible, real, and verifiable. You won't get this from anybody else in Canada. God bless everybody. Take care. Get it out there. It's one of the most powerful videos. And again, thank you, Teresa McBride. It is a big deal to hit, and it is very important to people that all Canadians and First Peoples know this as it really legally is and designed. And there's nobody to come forward and say he's lying, because I promise you, 100% factual, truthful, and easily found in the constitutional acts of Canada forever and a day, as are all your Executive Powers Act the history of the Charlottetown Accord, how that came to be, what the premiers were doing, Triple E Senate, what those four premiers of the West were doing, and what autocratic powers they wanted to take from Prime Minister and give to themselves against all of you. Because I promise you, in all of this, it's a matter of moving fused branches federally to fuse them provincially, executive to executive, expanding executive. Not for any of you. Never has been, never will be, until we all get together. We, the people, which means all Canadians, all First Peoples, and start saying, listen, we've had enough of the ultimate socialist fascist state, the undemocratic illusion called Canada. We want to destroy what's evil and wrong. We want to move on in the world and be what our ancestors gave us, supposedly, from World War II, and what we promised the Allies we would be and strive to do. It's never happened ever in Canada's history. Don't look to Australia. Don't look to New Zealand. They may be a little better than Canada, but remember, who's the first jewel design of pure socialist, fascist dictatorship? It's Canada. In the entire world, out of that British Empire, we are their jewel. We are the number one evilest design. Fact, reality. God bless everybody. Get the video out there. You're the change. You can educate people. This video does that. Bye now.